The news headlines on Gold FM.
A very good evening. This is Avanindra Soma and you're listening to the news in detail on Gold FM. In your news headlines, PUCSL green light CB tariff hike. Electricity hike, signs of more worrying times to come. Another hiccup for debt-ridden National Carrier as chairman throws the towel. Verdict delivered on controversial Frontline Socialist Party office. US in serious discussions with more reasonable Iran regime, insists Trump. Zelensky signals potential ceasefire on Russian oil targets.
The top story on Gold FM.
The Public Utilities Commission today announces a hike in electricity tariffs which will be effective from the second quarter of the year. A press conference scheduled for 2 p.m. today detailed this. The Public Utilities Commission accordingly announced a hike which will be effective for the second quarter, though it falls short of the 13.56% hike that the Ceylon Electricity Board calls for. It still stings. Instead of an average hike across the board, the PUCSL chairman, Professor KPL Chandralal, said that differing percentages of increase will be applied to various bands of usage. As such, those with a consumption of less than 30 units of electricity will see a 4.3% rise in tariff, which translates to a possible maximum increase of 15 rupees per month. For those consuming 31 to 60 units, the hike is 6.9%, with a maximum of 45 rupee increases in the bill. As per units 61 to 90 band, the increase is also 6.9%, but with a maximum of 120 rupee increase in the bill. Consumers falling into the 91 to 180 unit band will see a tariff increase of 7.2%, translating to a 420 rupee maximum cost increase per month. Finally, for people using more than 180 units per month, will see a hike north of 25%. Now, in the meantime, industries are slapped with a hike of 8.7%, while hotels will be made to endure a 9.9% tariff increase. State institutions aren't spared, and they will be subjected to a 14.4% increase. As for religious institutions, those with a consumption below 180 units per month are spared a tariff hike, but those consuming more than 180 units will be subjected to a 9.6% tariff hike. Now, meanwhile, the Commissioner General of Essential Services issued guidelines intended to curb the use of fuel and energy. According to the document, all state and statutory institutions are to deactivate all air conditioning units at 3 p.m. The private sector is also requested to adopt similar energy-saving measures. He also seeks illuminated advertising boards and screens at various locations to be switched off after 8 p.m. Further, local government authorities are to be implementing special programs to switch off street lamps between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. Meanwhile, large-scale festivals and musical performances with more than 100 participants must be conducted without drawing electricity from the national grid. In the meantime, energy expert Vidura Ralapanava attributes the electricity hike not only to just global markets, but a failure in the procurement that the public is now being asked to fund.
We are all concerned about this coal problem. There is a quality problem where coal plant is generating 150 megawatts less than what it should be, and this has forced the utility to run more oil-based generation. We are also seeing a potential shipment shortage during the unloading season. So these two factors have not been considered in the tariff, which I believe is the correct thing. And the reason why it is not being done is, first of all, CB and its successor companies have not asked for a tariff revision based on the coal availability and coal quality. Second reason is that even within the tariff methodology, such allocation cannot be done because this is a failure of a procurement process. So ratepayers like us should not be asked to foot the bill for the same. Now, somebody still has to pay for that money. Still don't know the real cost.
The increase might sound like a number on a page, but Ralapanava reminds of 2023 when similar hikes pushed millions of Sri Lankans into the dock.
If you make electricity prices too high for certain category of consumers so that it's not affordable to them, what it will do is it will force them to get disconnected because they are unable to pay the bills. And we've seen this happen in 2023 when electricity prices were increased for low-income households at a very high level. And that resulted, UCSL and CB estimate, resulted about 1.3 million households. 1.3 million households is like 5 million. That's about 25% of the country's population having their electricity supplies disconnected because of their inability to pay. So always this affordability and equity are considered in the tariff examination. Now CB doesn't always do that, but that's what PUCSL does.
Ralapanava insists the government is ignoring the one thing that doesn't change price during a war. He went on to issue warnings for more darker times to come.
UCSL has kept in the tariff determination a provision for a fossil fuel surcharge, right? And that is because we don't have good visibility on the oil prices for the next quarter. So, we have the prices now, it might go up, continue to go up, and if such a case, there may be a risk of oil price surcharge, which we used to have, I think, about 20-30 years ago. So that may come up on that. I think there's a bigger problem. The reason why we are so exposed to this fossil fuel price increase is because CB and the current government has been very, very negative in terms of renewable energy growth. As I mentioned earlier, the reason why we are able to contain the price increase at 13% is because of the large rooftop solar and other renewable energy in the grid. If we had more and if we had battery storage, we could have been able to hold back this tariff increase, especially the third quarter tariff increase at much lower levels. So I just hope that the government will change course and really push hard and add more and more renewables and battery storage, because that's the only electricity generation that has not changed its price because of a war. So the more renewables we have on the grid supported by battery storage, less risk it is for our electricity bill.
This is the local news on Gold FM.
Sri Lankan Airlines chairman Sanath Ganegoda resigned from his position today. His departure takes effect tomorrow, marking a significant change in the national carrier's leadership, which was changed when this administration took office. Now, until the Secretary to the Treasury appoints a permanent successor, AKDD Dimal Arandra serves as the acting chairman to maintain operational continuity. The national carrier faces further vacancies following the exit of Director Rohan Gunathilaka from the board as well. The Gampaha Magistrates Court ordered the Janatha Vimukthi Peramuna or the JVP to return a property in Yakkala to Frontline Socialist Party following a forcible occupation on the 2nd of September last year. The court ruled that the removal of members from the Salmal Uyana premises, the Gampaha Party office of the Frontline Socialist Party, was unlawful. Thus, it confirmed the possession rights of the Frontline Socialist Party and its affiliated trade unions. The court had previously issued an interim injunction to remove JVP members and place the property under temporary police custody during the months-long trial. 20 respondents were named in the case, including General Secretary of the Janatha Vimukthi Peramuna. The Auditor General will conduct a forensic audit into the procurement of medicines and medical supplies during Kehlia Rabukwala's tenure as Health Minister. The Attorney General informed the Supreme Court of this move today during the hearing of a fundamental rights petition filed by the Transparency International Sri Lanka. The Deputy Solicitor General confirmed the decision as the state examines controversial purchasing processes. Separately, the Colombo High Court rejected preliminary objections raised by former ministers Mahindananda Gamage and Nalin Fernando. Prosecutors allege that 39 billion rupees in state funds were misused to import thousands of carom and draft boards through Sothasa, which were later distributed to political officers of former presidential candidate Mahinda Rajapaksa during the 2015 election. Now, in another similar development, the Attorney General told the Supreme Court that investigations continue into the unrest near former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's Mirihana residence. This update emerged during a hearing of a fundamental rights petition filed by an individual injured during the protests. Moving on in more local news, Commissioner General of Motor Traffic Kamal Amarasinghe was further remanded until the 10th of April. The order was issued after the suspect was produced before the Mawatagama Pillassa Magistrates Court today. The CID arrested the official on charges of aiding and abetting the alteration of a vehicle chassis number and the creation of fraudulent registration documents for a cab. Now, the Department of Meteorology issued a warning that the heat index will remain at a level requiring caution across the western, Sabaragamuwa, southern, eastern, northwestern, northern and north central provinces, as well as parts of the Monaragala district tomorrow. In response to the dry weather conditions, the Ministry of Education released new guidelines for schools too, which ban students from outdoor or playground activities during periods of high temperature. The ministry further advised schools to provide 2 short breaks for hydration and rest, while recommending that students stay indoors during peak daylight hours. The circular issued by the Secretary to the Ministry of Education also allows students to refrain from wearing ties and minimize the use of waist belts. Schools must keep classroom doors and windows open, and classes held in upper floors of buildings with metal roofing should be relocated to cooler temporary areas.
Now for some news in brief.
The Government Medical Officers Association stated that a 24-hour token strike will be launched at 8 am tomorrow over unfair transfers.
The business news on Gold FM.
The all-share price index of the Colombo Stock Exchange declined 283.49 to close at 21,092.24 points. The S&P SL20 index also declined 91.03 points to close at 5,908.96 points. Total market turnover was 2.1 billion rupees. Brent crude reached $114 and 8 cents today, following a 2% increase as international markets responded to tightening supply concerns. West Texas Intermediate crude similarly rose to $101 and 3 cents a barrel, marking a 1.62% jump during the latest trading session. Now, the interest rates for government securities rose for the first time in over 2 months at the latest auction, following a sharp upward trend in the secondary market. Treasury bill yields increased by up to 9 basis points as investors priced a higher risk premium into government debt amid fears of balance of payment crisis and rising inflation.
International news on Gold FM.
US President Donald Trump stated that Washington is in serious discussions with a, quote, new and more reasonable Iranian regime, unquote, to end military operations. However, the president warned that if a deal is not reached shortly, the United States will obliterate electricity plants, oil wells, and Karg Island. This comes as Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps confirmed the death of Naval Commander Alireza Tangsiri 4 days after an Israeli strike. Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei describes the commander as courageous. Over in Lebanon, Israel launched fresh airstrikes on southern Beirut, targeting Hezbollah infrastructure. Lebanese health officials report more than 1,100 deaths since the escalation began. Now, meanwhile, an Indonesian UN peacekeeper died after a projectile hit in a position in southern Lebanon. The ongoing conflict between the US and Israel and Iran continues to squeeze international fuel supplies as well. In response to this global energy crisis, President Volodymyr Zelensky stated that Ukraine received signals from allies to scale back strikes on the Russian oil sector. Speaking to reporters, the president stated Kyiv is ready to reciprocate if Russia ceases attacks on the Ukrainian energy system. He also confirmed that Ukraine remains open to an Easter ceasefire. Regional instability remains high in the Middle East as the UAE reports the interception of 38 missiles and drones in 24 hours. Now coming back to Israel, a fire broke out at a Haifa oil refinery after debris from an intercepted missile hit a fuel tanker. Meanwhile, UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer insisted this is not a British war and says UK troops will not deploy to the ground in Iran.
Entertainment news on Gold FM.
A London court postponed the trial of Russell Brand on charges of rape and sexual assault until the 12th of October. Originally scheduled for the 16th of June, the legal proceedings at Southwark Crown Court will now combine all 7 charges brought against the comedian over the past year. Legal experts expect the trial to span up to 2 months as the court examines the allegations.
Sports news on Gold FM.
Yannick Sinner became the first man to complete the Sunshine Double without dropping a set after securing the Miami Open title. The 24-year-old Italian defeated Czech 21st seed Jiří Lečka 6-4, 6-4 in a rain-interrupted Florida final. This victory following a win at the Indian Wells further cements the dominance of Sinner and Carlos Alcaraz over the rest of the professional circuit. And that's all the news for now. Stay tuned to Gold FM for the latest updates. The next news highlight at 7:30 p.m. as well as the news roundup of the day at 8:30.